Back with another video for you today, and today I'm going to talk to you about two Frederic Malle fragrances. One of them is called Une Rose, recently featured in my top 15 Frederic Malle fragrances video in the top 5. And also French Lover, otherwise known as Bois D'Orage in the States. Plus, if you recall from the video, the top 15 Frederic Malle fragrances video, I mentioned Frederic Malle was coming to town to San Francisco at Barneys. And he had a conversation in a room, a small group of people, and I'm going to show you the conversation he was having as well. I'll come in right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews, and that's right, today we're talking about two Frederic Malle fragrances. Two that I love. Une Rose, recently featured in my top 15 video, and of course French Lover, which was featured in my top 15 video as well, but it's called Bois D'Orage here if you didn't know this already. Also, I'm going to cut to some segments of Frederic Malle himself in person talking about the brand Editions Frederic Malle that I shot at Barneys San Francisco. Also, I didn't mention we're doing a giveaway as well here. You're going to have a chance at winning a sample of both of these to two different subscribers if you are in the USA. So stay tuned for the details on that. So Une Rose is the first fragrance we're going to talk about here, and I got it signed by Frederic Malle himself, as you can see. He also signed the box. So he was visiting here, Barneys. There was a big, what do you call it, an event at Barneys, and he also had a private meeting in a room of 10 so of us. And he kind of answered questions everybody was asking. And I'm going to cut to little portions of that video throughout this video. You'll find out what some of the stuff about Frederic Malle and how they put together the fragrances and all that good stuff as well. But Une Rose is one that I've been eyeing for several years now. You know I love Portrait of a Lady. It's one of my favorite fragrances. It's one of my top 5 niche fragrances. It was #1 for quite some time, but you know, new fragrances come out all the time. But Portrait of a Lady is still top 5. Absolutely love it. It's rose, but it's a spicy rose with incense and patchouli. But here we have an ultra rose, a rose that's just nothing but rose. So help me rose. It's just one of the most beautifully gorgeous rose fragrances. And even though it's targeted to women, I find this to be quite unisex, as long as you like wearing rose, because I mean the rose is very jammy, very juicy, and also very red. When I smell this rose, red, just kind of I visualize red. Everything about it is red. It's got a huge dominant note of rose. It also has red wine, so it's a bit not necessarily boozy, but just kind of like liquidy. You can kind of like experience the liquidiness of the rose because it doesn't come off dense. It's just kind of like wet, but not watery, just kind of like thick wet, if that makes sense. Almost like molasses, but not quite. You also have geranium here. You have hibiscus and honey and dried fruits and woody notes and musk. It's just truly a gorgeous, gorgeous rose. This is probably, I would say this is like an ultra rose fragrance for the lover of rose. If they don't want any other notes kind of interfering, even though there's a ton of different notes in here, the rose is so dominant here. Everything else is almost like a background player. So you're going to get an ultra rose, an in-your-face rose, but very soft and smooth and slightly fragile kind of rose, rather than like this big butch rose that is the type of rose that's in Portrait of a Lady, which is also from Frederic Malle. But a truly gorgeous rose. This is such a great fragrance. I'm so happy that I have it in my collection now. And this is the kind of rose that I can also wear in the warmer days because it's not overwhelming. Whereas Portrait of a Lady is overwhelming, really strong, it's butch, it's masculine, it's heavy, it's dense. This one you can get away in the summertime. It doesn't come off that heavy, even though it's an in-your-face rose. It's like nothing but rose, just really, really rosy. Anyway, that's Une Rose. I'm glad to have it. It's delicious. Now let's cut to Frederic himself, and then he can answer some questions that the audience in the room was asking.
So you mentioned that Oud is a little bit more difficult to get earlier, but now it's a little bit more ready available for folks who want to acquire it. Are there any classic ingredients that you're finding that are becoming more difficult to find where you're having to really either go more deeply into indigenous rainforest or things like that to find it, or are you going sometimes a few synthetic things, or what's the trend now for your house?
The trend for my house is the trend for everybody. I mean, we are no different than anybody, except that we have access to more because I work with the best perfumers. They have access to the best materials, and a lot of those raw materials that they use, they are often the first one to have access to them or to experiment. For instance, you think of the vetiver in Vetiver Extraordinaire, which is a molecular distillation of vetiver from Haiti. I smelled the prototype with Dominique. We work on the product when using prototypes, and then we put that in. Same for the Bigarade that Jean-Claude literally worked on with Monique Remy. And Cologne Bigarade or Bigarade Concentré were built around those materials that were not available. So we are really at the forefront of that. Now, to answer your question, it goes by waves. For instance, what people don't understand is that things like sandalwood or tuberose are not made initially for perfumery. You use a lot of sandalwood for pharmacy, you use a lot of tuberose to make necklaces, for other things. And perfumery is a smaller market. So we are very dependent on the other markets. We are not always on top of the agenda of everybody, of these suppliers. So it's sometimes we have shortages. It happened to me with Camel Flower, for instance. There was not enough of good tuberose coming from India to be used, I don't know, 8 years ago, something like that. So we had to stop production until they would reproduce. But so sometimes you have bad years and things like that. But we don't replace that with a cheap synthetic version because then you kill the perfume. We just wait for the next year. We have serious people. But this generally is addressed when there's something like that, when there's this type of weakness. They generally find another place to plan these things, to do all that. What is disappearing though, and where we all have to adapt, is some older raw materials that are not natural and that are sort of small specialties that were used in the past, sort of old chemicals. And now, because of European rules and regulations, you have something called REACH, where you have to test everything that's chemical to make sure that it's completely innocuous, that it's biodegradable, especially biodegradable. And so these tests are very expensive. And sometimes the business doesn't justify those tests anymore. And it's the law to test them, otherwise you can't sell them. So the labs that have been making these things for dozens of years stop making them. So that's when you're in trouble. And what people don't realize, there's something called costacide at the moment, which is, there's something called costus, which is a plant that smells animalic. And already this is supposed to be, I don't know what it does, it's not supposed to be good for you. I don't know if it's an allergen or something like that. So the real costus was, we're not allowed to use anymore by IFRA. But costacide, which does 90% of the smell of costus, so we could get away with it, was available. But now, because it's such a small market, hello. Because it's such a small market, then that is probably going to disappear, and so on and so forth. So you have entire sort of bits of perfumeries, like colors to our rainbow, that disappear. And this is not because of the rainforest. This is because they are chemicals, although essential and although part of nature, similar to nature, but they don't make enough money.
And are you using that particular chemical in your...
Not this one. But this one, but we could have.
Perfumes, though.
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. Of course. These things have sort of programmed death. So, this is an issue. What can you say?
So the next fragrance I wanted to talk to you about is called French Lover, this one, or Bois D'Orage here in the States. Now, I picked this up in Europe because I knew that I couldn't get French Lover here in the States. It's called Bois D'Orage. But listening to Frederic Malle at Barneys, I find out that pretty soon, or I don't know, sometime in the future, they're all going to be called French Lover. So I guess I kind of could have waited to pick it up here. But either way, I'm glad I have it because I've been wanting to pick up a bottle of French Lover for a while, just never really did it. And I always thought in the background I could always do Bois D'Orage, but then I thought, okay, French Lover would be better. So I finally have French Lover. So this was launched in 2007. I didn't mention the nose here for Une Rose, but Edward Flesher. But for this, is a very well-known perfumer, Pierre Bourdon is the perfumer. And this is an ultra green fragrance, very classy, very masculine, although I think it's unisex. Anybody could wear this one. But a dominant note of angelica, vetiver, woody notes, galbanum, spicy notes, oak moss, incense, and musk. Very, very green, very classic, slightly powdery, but it's colder, it's cooler. It's just also a little distant. It's not one of those ones that you would hug. It's like the kind of personality. It's a little distant personality because it's cold and a bit austere, but really, really great green fragrance I really, really love. This was not a love at first sniff for me. It was a love at slow sniff, I guess. I kept coming back to it over and over and over again. And finally, I really fell in love with it and I had to have the bottle, but truly an amazing release. If you don't know this one, you're gonna have a chance at winning a sample. 2 of you are gonna win a sample of both of these fragrances, as I said. But let's cut to Frederic Malle again for him to explain a couple of more questions the audience was asking.
Are there any ingredients in your current perfumes that have been altered because of IFRA rules? I know oak moss is one.
Yes. Oak moss is one, but it's not. You know what? What's terrible in these circumstances is the way it arrives. Someone proves outside IFRA. Sometimes it is IFRA and written. But sometimes someone comes with some research saying that oak moss, for instance, has 2 constituents in it. One is called athanol, the other one is called chlorathanol, to take this specific thing. That some people, probably 1% of the population, are allergic to. Ooh. So therefore, because
Tell them not to buy it.
yeah, but there are several things about that. First thing, our business is not mature enough and adult enough to be able to sort of all get together and have a big sign on perfume or on anything saying
Like
this is an
tobacco lobby.
allergen. Yeah, a bit that, but tobacco lobbies are just trying to sell the cigarettes that everybody knows are not good for anyone. This is just a matter of getting people to sneeze, and sometimes more. But there is no such thing as a sign saying allergen, because the problem is that many of the hypoallergenic perfume products would probably have to bear that, so that would kill that part of the market. So everybody has different interests in this business, and so it's not an allied front, and so therefore anything that has an allergy or generates an allergy when someone else is breathing it, basically is not allowed in perfumes anymore. So now you have someone like the person who came up with this Oakmoss thing. But what's terrible is that person comes with the problem, sort of underlines the problem, and then by miracle has a solution and has a patent to take these things out.
Oh.
The science is right. It is an allergen, and so you can't say sorry, go away with your system because they are telling the truth. But the process is a bit annoying. Now, as far as our products are concerned, to answer your question, our products were all, I mean, apart from Parfum Thérèse, which was done probably around 1956, but which we got an IFRA version in 2000. All our products were made after 2000, or they were IFRA in 2000.
Fairly okay.
So most of the big problems were already taken care of before that. Now we are at IFRA 49, I think. So it's been 49 years of these recommendations. So we didn't have to do too much. Now, Oakmoss, obviously, where like everybody, this was found later. So now we have those decaffeinated
Like
Oakmoss.
Low
Exactly. So you have that. If you put more, in some circumstances, it does almost the same job. If not, you put more and you add them according to, it's not always the same. That's the problem. According to the formula, then you put something else next to it,
counterbalance.
and you counterbalance it. And in fact, the formula changes, but the smell hardly changes. There has been a few changes with some musks also.
Nitro musk, for example.
Nitro musk were forbidden
Way back
before,
when, yeah.
way back. So even when I started
They were banned.
in this business in
I think it was a
1986,
65, I think.
it's like Muszilen and all that. I don't know exactly how it's something what's amusing and sad at the same time is nitro musk have in terms of formulas that are quite close to nitroglycerin. So
So you can
So-
make things sparkle, as I read about it.
I don't know. What I know is that when
Yeah.
it's generally those nitro musk create this warmth. The problem is that they were not biodegradable. So, when IFRA started looking into that, that was taken away. But the thing is that when some musk had nitro musk in them as a sort of like a subcomponent, and when you try to get this out, it becomes a very explosive thing.
Okay.
And I think that there are a few factories in China that blew up. So that wasn't good.
It's like the original Chanel 5, I think, had nitro musk and a few other of those old-time perfumes.
Yeah, beige,
Were
all that.
classic for claiming they had that.
Yeah, all these formulas had to change, and Chanel actually does the best job at changing them without changing the smell, because they really have extraordinary perfumers, and they do it better than anyone in the industry. What's difficult is when people have not changed any of that over the years, because they sort of poo-pooed that because it was a recommendation and not a law. And the minute it became a law because of Europe, they all had to do it. And some of them had to implement 45 years of recommendation in one go. So, of course, people thought like, oh, my perfume has changed. No kidding. I mean, it's like changing 5 or 6 or 7 ingredients in one perfume. So generally, doing that, it's difficult not to make it change.
Well, thanks so much for watching these snippets of Frederic Malle. a shot here at San Francisco's Barneys store where he came and he held an event launching the new fragrance from Frederic Malle, Music for a while. And he answered several questions from the audience. I wasn't able to ask a question because I was holding the camera, and I'm sorry the camera was a little angled. Next time we'll get right in front of him, but this is as best as we can do. But you are hearing from the man himself, the guy who created Frederic Malle, or Editions Frederic Malle, named after him. So let me know for a question to participate in the giveaway to win a sample of both of these. 2 lucky subscribers will have a chance. Let me know what your favorite Frederic Malle fragrance is. Do you have a favorite? And if you do not have a favorite and you also have never smelled any of the fragrances, please let me know which fragrance, doesn't have to be these 2, but which fragrance from this Frederic Malle fragrances collection sounds the best to you. Also, please put your state. This is going to be sent by Barneys in San Francisco, so this is not an international giveaway. And so Barneys San Francisco will send it. They will only send a USA residents the samples. So good luck with that. Also, guys, let me know just in general, do you like Frederic Malle as a brand? Do you have any of their fragrances? Which are your favorites and which do you wish to pick up? Let me know. Let's get a conversation started. Also, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, there is a subscribe button below. Click that subscribe button and also click the bell so you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. And of course, if you are a winner here and you don't have the notifications turned on, you will not be able to get the notifications if you have won. So please click that as well. And thank you so much for that. Also, please like this video, please share it, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.